Hello and welcome, Whispering Bee family. I hope you're all doing well. Before we begin, let me know where you're listening from and what kind of healing story you'd like to hear next. I always love hearing your ideas and connecting with all of you. Now, let's begin today's story. You know what nobody tells you about divorce? Sometimes the person you married isn't actually your biggest problem. Sometimes it's the person who raised them. Lisa Carswell spent 13 years trying to be enough for a family that never wanted her in the first place. And when she finally left, she discovered something terrifying. Her mother-in-law had been waiting for this moment the entire time. Because Diane didn't just want Lisa gone, she wanted to erase her completely. This is the story of how one woman turned a custody battle into psychological warfare, how two children became soldiers in a war they never asked to fight, and how the truth came out in the most unexpected way possible. So let's talk about what happens when love turns into ammunition. Lisa met Ryan Giebler when she was 24 years old. He was charming in that quiet, steady way that made her feel safe. They met at a mutual friend's barbecue, and by the end of the night, they were sitting on the porch steps talking about nothing important while everyone else had gone inside. 3 years later, they got married in a small ceremony at a vineyard. Lisa wore a simple dress she'd found on sale. Ryan cried during his vows. It felt like the beginning of something beautiful. But Diane Giebler made sure Lisa knew who really mattered in Ryan's life. The warning signs were there from the beginning, but Lisa did what a lot of women do. She convinced herself it would get better, that Diane just needed time to warm up to her, that once they had children, everything would smooth out naturally. Diane showed up to their apartment unannounced during their first year of marriage. She'd let herself in with the spare key Ryan had given her and rearranged their kitchen cabinets because things weren't organized properly. Lisa came home from work and found her mother-in-law wiping down counters like she owned the place. "I was just helping," Diane said with that smile that never quite reached her eyes. "You work so much, I figured you could use the support." Lisa looked at Ryan, waiting for him to say something. He just shrugged. "Mom's always been like this. She means well." That phrase, "she means well," became the soundtrack to their marriage. When Lisa got pregnant with Ellie, Diane attended every single doctor's appointment, even the ones Lisa specifically asked to do alone with Ryan. She'd sit in the waiting room if she wasn't invited into the exam room, and then pepper Lisa with questions afterward about what the doctor said, what tests were done, whether Lisa was taking her vitamins correctly. "I'm just concerned," Diane would say. "First-time mothers don't always know what they're doing." Lisa tried setting boundaries. She asked Ryan to talk to his mother about giving them space. He'd nod, promise to handle it, and then nothing would change. Diane would show up with baby clothes Lisa didn't ask for, criticize the crib Lisa picked out, and make comments about how Lisa's body was changing during pregnancy. "You're getting quite big," Diane said during Lisa's 7th month. "I barely gained any weight with Ryan. You should probably watch what you're eating." Lisa stopped inviting Diane to appointments after that, but it didn't matter. Diane would call Ryan daily for updates and somehow still know everything. When Ellie was born, Diane was in the delivery room. Lisa hadn't wanted her there. She'd specifically told Ryan it should just be the two of them and the medical staff. But Diane showed up anyway, right as Lisa was being wheeled in for an emergency C-section, and suddenly she was there, standing in the corner with her phone out, taking pictures while Lisa was being cut open. The first time Lisa held Ellie, Diane leaned over her shoulder and said, "Make sure you support her head properly." Ryan thought his mother was being helpful. Lisa felt like she was being audited. Those first few years of motherhood were a constant battle Lisa didn't know she was fighting. Every parenting choice became a referendum on whether she was doing things the right way, which really meant Diane's way. Ellie had colic. She cried for hours every night and nothing seemed to help. Lisa walked circles around their apartment at 2 in the morning, bouncing and shushing and trying everything the pediatrician suggested. She was exhausted. She was scared. She felt like she was failing. Diane showed up one afternoon and took Ellie out of Lisa's arms. "You're too tense. Bobbies can sense that." She settled into the rocking chair, and within minutes, Ellie quieted down. Diane looked up with this satisfied expression. See, she just needs someone calm. Lisa wanted to scream, or cry, or both. Instead, she went into the bedroom and called her own mother, who lived 3 states away. "Am I doing something wrong?" she asked. "No, sweetheart," her mom said. "You're doing everything right. Diane is just difficult." But difficult didn't quite capture it. Diane wasn't just overbearing. She was strategic. Every criticism was wrapped in concern. Every boundary violation came with an excuse. And Ryan never, ever took Lisa's side. When Noah was born 4 years later, Lisa hoped things might be different. Maybe with 2 kids, Diane would ease up. Maybe Lisa would feel more confident. Instead, Diane doubled down. She started showing up at Ellie's preschool to pick her up, even though Lisa had specifically arranged her work schedule to do it herself. The teachers didn't know what to do. Diane was on the approved pickup list because Ryan had added her without telling Lisa. "I was in the area," Diane would say, "and I know how busy you are." Lisa would arrive at the school to find Ellie already gone, and have to drive to Diane's house to get her own daughter. Ellie would be eating snacks that Lisa didn't allow before dinner, watching shows Lisa had said no to, and wearing clothes Diane had bought without asking. "Grammy says we can have candy whenever we want at her house," Ellie announced one day. Lisa looked at Ryan. "We need to talk to your mom." "She's just being a grandma," Ryan said. "You're overreacting." That word, overreacting, became the other soundtrack to their marriage. Every time Lisa tried to set a boundary, she was overreacting. Every time she asked Ryan to support her, she was being controlling. Every time she expressed hurt over Diane's behavior, she was too sensitive. The thing about being told you're overreacting for years is that you start to believe it. You start questioning your own feelings. You start thinking maybe you are the problem. Lisa stopped complaining about Diane. She gritted her teeth through holidays where Diane made passive-aggressive comments about the food Lisa brought. She smiled through birthday parties where Diane gave the kids elaborate gifts that made Lisa's presents look cheap and thoughtless by comparison. She pretended not to notice when Diane whispered things to the children that she couldn't quite hear. But the resentment was building, between Lisa and Ryan, between Lisa and herself. By the time Ellie was 10 and Noah was 6, Lisa realized she'd spent a decade trying to win approval she was never going to get. She'd spent years hoping Ryan would finally stand up for her, and he never did. She was lonely in her own marriage. She was anxious in her own home. She was exhausted from constantly walking on eggshells around everyone else's feelings while nobody seemed to care about hers. One night after Diane criticized how Lisa disciplined Noah for hitting at school, Lisa looked at Ryan and said, "I can't do this anymore." "Do what?" he asked, barely looking up from his phone. "This, us, your mother, all of it." Ryan finally looked at her. "You're overreacting again." And something inside Lisa just broke. Not in a dramatic way, not with yelling or throwing things. It was quieter than that. It was the moment she realized she'd lost herself completely trying to fit into a family that never wanted her there in the first place. She told Ryan she wanted a divorce 3 days later. He didn't fight her on it. He didn't beg her to stay or promise things would change. He just looked tired and said, "Fine, if that's what you want." But Diane went to war. The first few weeks after Lisa moved out were strange and sad, but relatively peaceful. She found a small 2-bedroom apartment 15 minutes from the house. Ryan kept the house. She didn't have the energy to fight about it. They agreed the kids would stay with her during the week and go to Ryan's on weekends. Ellie cried the first night in the new apartment. "Why can't we just be a normal family?" Lisa held her and said, "Sometimes people love each other but aren't good at being married. That doesn't mean we're not still a family." Noah was quieter about it. He set up his action figures in his new room and asked if Grammy was going to come over a lot. "Not without asking first," Lisa said, feeling lighter than she had in years. She should have known it was too easy. Diane called Ryan the day after Lisa moved out. Lisa only knew because Ryan mentioned it casually during a drop-off. Mom's really upset about this. She thinks we should try to work things out. We're not working things out, Lisa said firmly. We're getting divorced. Ryan shrugged. I know, I'm just telling you what she said. But Diane wasn't just upset. She was humiliated. In her mind, Lisa leaving Ryan was a public rejection of the Giebler family. It was unacceptable, and Diane had never been good at accepting things she didn't like. She started small, little comments to the kids when they were at Ryan's house. It's too bad Mommy doesn't want to be with us anymore, she'd say while making them breakfast. I miss when we were all together, she'd sigh during game night. Your mom is so busy with work. She doesn't have as much time for you now. Ellie came home one Sunday evening and asked Lisa, why did you leave us? Lisa felt like she'd been punched. I didn't leave you, sweetheart. I left a marriage that wasn't healthy. You and Noah are with me all the time. But Grammy says you chose work over family. Lisa took a deep breath. This was going to be harder than she thought. She called Ryan that night. Your mom is saying things to the kids. It needs to stop. What things? She's telling them I abandoned the family, that I chose work over them. None of that is true, and you know it. Ryan sighed. Mom's just having a hard time with the divorce. She'll calm down. She's confusing the kids, Ryan. This isn't fair to them. I'll talk to her, he said, but his voice said he wouldn't. Diane didn't calm down. She escalated. She started keeping a notebook. Every time the kids mentioned anything remotely negative about their time with Lisa, Diane wrote it down. If Ellie said she was tired, Diane wrote, Lisa not ensuring adequate sleep. If Noah said he didn't like what Lisa made for dinner, Diane wrote, children not being properly fed. She took photos of the kids looking sad and saved them in a folder labeled evidence. And then she did something Lisa never saw coming. She hired Ryan a lawyer. Not just any lawyer, a cutthroat family law attorney named Patricia Helms who had a reputation for destroying mothers in custody cases. Ryan didn't even want custody. He'd told Lisa during their initial separation conversation that he thought the kids should primarily stay with her because his work schedule was unpredictable. He'd agreed to every weekend and Wednesday dinners. But Diane saw this differently. Diane saw an opportunity to punish Lisa and save her grandchildren from what she'd convinced herself was a terrible mother. She sat Ryan down one evening and laid out her case. Lisa is going to try to take those kids away from you. She's already turned them against our family. If you don't fight for custody now, you'll lose them forever. Ryan protested weakly. Lisa's a good mom. The kids are fine. Are they? Diane pulled out her notebook. Ellie told me Lisa yelled at her for spilling juice. Noah said he has nightmares, and Lisa just tells him to go back to bed. She's too focused on her career to actually parent them. None of it was true. Ellie had spilled an entire pitcher of juice on Lisa's work laptop, and Lisa had been frustrated but handled it calmly. Noah had nightmares once, and Lisa had stayed up with him for 2 hours, rubbing his back until he fell asleep. But Diane was skilled at taking normal parenting moments and twisting them into ammunition. I've already talked to Patricia Helms, Diane continued. She said we have a strong case, and I'll pay for everything. You don't have to worry about the cost. Ryan looked at his mother. This woman who had always been his biggest cheerleader, who had always told him he deserved better, who had never liked Lisa anyway. Okay, he said quietly, if you really think it's necessary. Diane smiled. I'm doing this for you and the children. Someone has to protect this family. Lisa received the custody petition 3 weeks later. She stood in her kitchen, reading the document, feeling her entire world tilt. Ryan was seeking primary custody. He claimed Lisa was emotionally unstable, that she frequently lost her temper with the children, that she prioritized work over parenting, that the children expressed fear and discomfort around her. Lisa's hands shook so badly, she had to put the papers down. None of it was true, not a single word. She called Ryan immediately. What is this? You agreed the kids would stay with me. My lawyer thinks this is best, he said stiffly. The kids need stability. They have stability. They're with me 5 days a week and doing great. Their teachers haven't reported any problems. They're happy. My mother says. Your mother, Lisa's voice cracked. Your mother is behind this. Silence on the other end. Ryan, please, don't do this. Don't let her do this. I have to do what's best for my kids, he said, and hung up. Lisa sat on her kitchen floor and cried. Not soft tears. Ugly, gasping sobs that came from somewhere deep and terrified. She couldn't afford a lawyer like Patricia Helms. She was working part-time from home specifically so she could be available for the kids. Her savings were already stretched thin from setting up the new apartment. But the next morning, she called every family law attorney in the area until she found one who would work with her on a payment plan. His name was Marcus Dane, and he listened to her story with a grave expression. I'm going to be honest with you, Marcus said. Patricia Helms is very good at what she does, and if your mother-in-law is funding this, they can drag this out until you're financially and emotionally destroyed. So what do I do? We fight back. We document everything. We stay calm and don't give them anything they can use against you, and we trust that the truth will come out. Lisa wanted to believe him, but she'd spent 13 years trusting that the truth would matter, and it never did. The custody battle officially began, and Diane was relentless. She attended every single one of Ryan's meetings with Patricia Helms. She compiled lists of Lisa's failures as a mother. She drove by Lisa's apartment at odd hours and took photos, documenting the times Lisa's car wasn't there, even though Lisa was usually at the grocery store or the kids' school events. She started showing up at Ellie's soccer games and Noah's school programs, positioning herself front and center, making sure everyone knew she was the devoted grandmother, while Lisa was cast as the villain who destroyed the family. But the worst part was what she did to the children. Diane started having long, private conversations with Ellie. She'd take her out for ice cream or to the mall, just the two of them, and slowly plant seeds of doubt. Your mom seems stressed lately. Does she yell a lot? I worry about you at your mom's apartment. Do you feel safe there? You know you can tell me anything, right? If your mom ever does something that scares you or makes you uncomfortable. Ellie was 12. She loved her grandmother. She didn't understand she was being manipulated. At first, Ellie would defend Lisa. Mom doesn't yell, she's really nice. But Diane was patient. She'd sigh sadly and say, I'm glad to hear that. I just want to make sure you're okay. You know how much I love you. And slowly, over weeks and months, the message shifted. Well, sometimes Mom gets frustrated when I don't clean my room fast enough. She did raise her voice, once when I forgot my homework. I guess sometimes I feel like she's tired a lot. Normal parenting moments, twisted and reshaped until they sounded sinister when repeated in court documents. Diane did the same thing with Noah, though he was younger and easier to influence. She'd play with him for hours, being the fun, indulgent grandmother, and then casually ask, do you like being at Mommy's or Daddy's better? Noah, wanting to please everyone, would say, both. But if you had to pick, Diane would press gently. I don't know. Daddy's house has better snacks. Diane wrote it down. Child expresses preference for father's home. The custody evaluation was scheduled 4 months after the petition was filed. Lisa prepared for it obsessively. She organized documentation of everything, school records showing the kids were thriving, medical records showing she never missed an appointment. Photos of the kids happy and healthy. But nothing prepared her for watching her own daughter sit in that evaluator's office and repeat lies. The evaluator, a woman named Dr. Susan Marsh, interviewed each family member separately. Lisa went first. She answered every question honestly, described her parenting style, her relationship with the kids, the normal challenges every parent faces. Do you ever lose your temper? Dr. Marsh asked. Sometimes, Lisa admitted. Usually when I'm stressed about work or the kids are fighting with each other, but I don't yell or get physical. I take deep breaths and handle it. Dr. Marsh made notes. Then it was Ellie's turn. Lisa waited in the lobby, her stomach in knots. She trusted Ellie to tell the truth. They had a good relationship. Ellie told her everything. But when Ellie came out 40 minutes later, she wouldn't make eye contact. Lisa drove them home in silence. Finally, she said, "How did it go?" "Fine," Ellie mumbled. "What did you talk about?" "Just stuff, about school and home and things." Something felt wrong, but Lisa couldn't put her finger on it. She found out 2 weeks later when Marcus called her, his voice tight. "We need to talk about Ellie's evaluation." Lisa's heart dropped. What did she say? Marcus read from the report. Ellie had described Lisa as angry all the time. She said Lisa made her uncomfortable with mood swings. She claimed Lisa said mean things about Ryan and Diane in front of the kids. She said she feels safer at her dad's house. Marcus finished quietly. Lisa couldn't breathe. "That's not true. None of that is true. I've never, Marcus, I don't understand. Why would she say that?" "Someone coached her," Marcus said. "The language is too mature. The phrasing is too specific. This isn't a 12-year-old talking." But knowing it and proving it were two different things. The temporary custody hearing was brutal. Patricia Helms presented Diane's carefully curated evidence. Photos of the kids looking tired or unhappy, taken strategically after long days when any kid would look worn out. Text messages where Lisa expressed frustration to a friend about single parenting, presented as proof she resented her children. Ellie's evaluation weighted heavily because children's preferences matter in custody cases. Lisa sat at the defendant's table, feeling like she was watching her life be dismantled piece by piece. Patricia Helms addressed the judge in a voice full of practiced concern. "Your Honor, we're simply asking for what's best for these children. Their father provides a stable home environment. His mother assists with childcare. The children have expressed a clear preference. Ms. Carswell, by her own admission, struggles with the demands of single parenting." Marcus objected when he could, but the damage was done. The judge, an older man named Richard Torres, looked tired. He'd probably seen 1,000 custody cases just like this one. "I'm granting temporary primary custody to Mr. Giebler while we continue the investigation. Ms. Carswell will have supervised visitation every Wednesday evening and alternate weekends." Lisa felt the words like a physical blow. Supervised visitation. Like she was dangerous. Like she couldn't be trusted alone with her own children. She looked across the courtroom at Ryan. He wouldn't meet her eyes. But Diane, sitting right behind him, had the smallest smile on her face. The first Wednesday evening with supervised visitation, Lisa picked up the kids from a neutral location. A community center with a visitation supervisor named Margaret who looked like somebody's sweet grandmother, but treated Lisa like a criminal. Ellie barely hugged her. Noah seemed confused about why Margaret was sitting in the corner watching them. "Why is that lady here?" he whispered. Lisa forced a smile. "She's just here to help. Don't worry about it." They went to a pizza place. Lisa tried to keep things normal, asked about school, laughed at Noah's jokes. But the whole time, Margaret sat 3 tables away, taking notes. When Lisa reached over to wipe sauce off Noah's face, Margaret wrote something down. When Ellie got quiet and Lisa asked what was wrong, Margaret wrote something down. Lisa felt like an animal in a zoo, every interaction examined, every word analyzed. The worst part was dropping them off afterward. She hugged them both and said, "I love you. I'll see you this weekend." "Okay," Noah said. Ellie pulled away first. "Bye, Mom." Lisa watched them walk to Ryan's car. Diane was in the passenger seat, looking triumphant. Lisa cried the entire drive home. The next few months were the darkest period of Lisa's life. She went through the motions: work, supervised visits, court dates, therapy she couldn't really afford but knew she needed. But inside, she felt hollowed out. Her daughter was pulling away. Her son was confused. And the system that was supposed to protect children was being weaponized against her by a woman who saw custody as a trophy to win. Diane inserted herself into everything. She picked the kids up from school every day. She monitored Lisa's phone calls with them. Ryan would put the phone on speaker, and Lisa could hear Diane in the background making small comments. She bought the kids new clothes and school supplies, making sure everyone knew Lisa couldn't provide properly. "Grammy got me the shoes I wanted," Ellie mentioned during one visit. "The ones you said were too expensive." Lisa smiled tightly. That was nice of her. But it wasn't nice. It was calculated. Every gift came with an unspoken message. "I can give you things your mother can't." Diane started taking the kids to church, something Ryan's family had never been particularly religious about before. But suddenly, every Sunday, the kids were dressed up and sitting in the front pew with Grandma while Ryan dozed in the back. Diane made sure to introduce them to everyone. "These are my grandchildren. Their father is raising them now. Such a difficult situation." The implication was clear without saying it directly. Their mother wasn't in the picture. Teachers at school started looking at Lisa differently. Diane had befriended several of them, carefully sharing concerns about Lisa's mental health and stability. Nothing overt enough to be called slander, but enough to plant doubt. When Lisa showed up for parent-teacher conferences, Ellie's teacher seemed surprised. "Oh, I didn't realize you'd be coming. Mrs. Giebler has been handling most of the communication." "I'm still Ellie's mother," Lisa said, trying to keep her voice steady. "Of course," the teacher said, but her expression said she'd already heard a different story. Lisa felt like she was being erased, slowly, methodically. Diane was rewriting the family narrative, and nobody seemed to notice or care. Except Marcus kept digging. "Something's wrong here," he told Lisa during a strategy meeting. "The kids' behavior doesn't match what they're saying in evaluations. Teachers report they're both showing signs of anxiety. Noah's pediatrician noted developmental regression. These aren't signs of kids thriving in a stable environment." "So what do we do?" "We document everything, and we wait for them to make a mistake. People like Diane always do eventually. They get overconfident." Lisa wanted to believe him, but she was running out of hope. The breakthrough came from the most unexpected source, Ellie herself. It started with therapy. The court had ordered family therapy for everyone, including the kids. Lisa had been relieved about this. Finally, someone neutral would talk to the children without Diane's influence. The therapist, Dr. Rachel Kim, was younger than Lisa expected. She specialized in children of divorce and had experience with high-conflict custody cases. The first few sessions with Ellie went nowhere. Dr. Kim tried different approaches, talk therapy, art therapy, play therapy, but Ellie was shut down. Polite but distant. She'd answer questions with the same phrases Lisa had heard in court documents. "I feel safer at Dad's house. Mom gets angry a lot. I'm happier now." Dr. Kim noticed immediately that something was off. The language was too rehearsed. Ellie would say these things and then look uncomfortable, like she was waiting for approval. "Can you tell me about a specific time your mom got angry?" Dr. Kim asked during their third session. Ellie hesitated. I don't really remember exactly." "That's okay. What about a time you felt unsafe?" "I just feel unsafe sometimes." "Can you describe what that feels like?" Ellie squirmed. "I don't know, I just do." Dr. Kim made notes but didn't push. She knew better than to force a child who'd been coached. Instead, she changed tactics. "Let's do something different today," she said, pulling out a set of cards with different emotions. Happy, sad, angry, scared, confused, worried. "I'm going to ask you some questions, and you just point to the card that matches how you feel. You don't have to explain, just point. Okay." Ellie nodded, relieved not to have to come up with words. "How do you feel when you're at your dad's house?" Ellie pointed to okay, and then, after hesitating, added worried. "How do you feel when you're with your mom?" Ellie pointed to happy immediately, then quickly pulled her hand back like she'd made a mistake. Dr. Kim noted it, but kept her expression neutral. "How do you feel when Grammy talks to you about your mom?" Ellie froze. She stared at the cards for a long moment, and Dr. Kim watched her carefully. Ellie's breathing had changed. Her hands were clenched. Finally, Ellie pointed to scared and confused. Can you tell me more about that? I'm not supposed to, Ellie whispered. Not supposed to what? Talk about it. Dr. Kim leaned forward slightly. Ellie, everything you say in here is private. Nobody else gets to know what we talk about unless you want them to or unless I think someone might get hurt. Whatever you say stays between us. Ellie looked at her with 12-year-old eyes that suddenly looked much older and much more tired. Promise. I promise. The session ran over by 20 minutes because once Ellie started talking, everything poured out. She told Dr. Kim about the ice cream trips where Grammy asked careful questions. About the times Grammy would cry and say she was so worried about Ellie and Noah. About how Grammy said Dad would lose them forever if they didn't tell the judge the truth about Mom. What truth? Dr. Kim asked gently. That Mom is mean and yells and doesn't take care of us, but... Ellie's voice got very small. She doesn't really do that. Grammy told me what to say. How did that make you feel? Ellie pointed to the cards again, scared, confused, and then, after a long pause, guilty. She started crying. Not the quiet tears of a kid who scraped her knee, but the deep, wrenching sobs of a child who'd been carrying a secret too heavy for her. I didn't want to lie, she sobbed. But Grammy said if I didn't, Dad wouldn't love me anymore. She said Mom was trying to take us away. She said we had to protect the family. Dr. Kim handed her tissues and waited. I miss my mom, Ellie cried. I miss her so much. But every time I say that at Dad's house, Grammy gets sad and says I'm being disloyal. And Dad he doesn't say anything. He just lets Grammy do whatever she wants. Have you tried telling your dad how you feel? Once, he said I was confused and that Grammy was just trying to help. He said Mom was making things hard for everyone by being difficult. Do you think your mom is being difficult? Ellie shook her head hard. No, Mom is the only one who never makes me feel bad for loving Dad, too. She never says mean things about him or Grammy. She's just Mom. Dr. Kim documented everything, word for word. The coaching, the manipulation, the emotional abuse, the way Diane had weaponized Ellie's love for her family against her. She called Marcus Dane the same day. We need to talk about Ellie's session. Meanwhile, things with Noah were unraveling in different ways. He'd started wetting the bed again, something he hadn't done since he was 4. Ryan mentioned it to Lisa during a custody exchange like it was her fault. Noah's having accidents at night. What's going on? Lisa felt her stomach drop. What do you mean? He's been potty trained for years. Well, he's regressing. My mom thinks it's stress from all this custody stuff you started. Lisa bit back the response she wanted to give and said instead, has he said anything about what might be bothering him? He says he has nightmares about losing people. Have you taken him to his pediatrician? Ryan looked annoyed. My mom knows how to handle kids. She says it'll pass. But it didn't pass. Noah got quieter and clingier. During Lisa's supervised visits, he wouldn't leave her side. He'd hold her hand constantly, even just walking from the parking lot into the restaurant. You okay, buddy? Lisa asked during one visit. Don't leave me, Noah said. I'm right here. I'm not going anywhere. Promise. Lisa's heart broke. I promise, I'm your mom. I'll always be here. But Margaret was writing it all down, and Lisa knew it would be twisted somehow. Child exhibits anxious attachment to mother, or some other clinical phrase that would make Lisa sound like the problem instead of the victim. Noah's teacher called Lisa one afternoon. It was against protocol. Technically, Ryan was listed as the primary parent now, but the teacher was worried enough to risk it. I think you should know Noah had a meltdown today at school. He just started crying during reading time and wouldn't stop. When I asked what was wrong, he said he wanted his mom. Lisa closed her eyes. Did you call his dad? Mrs. Giebler came to pick him up. She said it was probably low blood sugar and took him home. Thank you for calling me, Lisa said quietly. Ms. Carswell, I probably shouldn't say this, but Noah talks about you all the time. He misses you. Whatever's going on with the custody situation, that little boy loves his mother. Lisa cried after hanging up, not from sadness, but from the relief of finally having someone believe her. She called Marcus immediately. "We need to do something. This is destroying them." "Dr. Kim is reopening the evaluation," Marcus said. "Based on Ellie's disclosure, she's recommending a full forensic psychological assessment for everyone, including Diane. Will that help?" "It might, but Lisa, you need to prepare yourself. This is going to get worse before it gets better. Once Diane realizes they're investigating her involvement, she's going to double down." Marcus was right. Diane found out about the forensic evaluation from Patricia Helms and immediately went into damage control mode. She started being extra sweet to the kids, buying more gifts, taking them on special trips, and subtly reminding them of the story they'd been telling. "Remember how we talked about being honest with the doctors," she'd say to Ellie, "about how worried we are about your mom's temper." But Ellie was changing. Something had shifted after talking to Dr. Kim. She started noticing things she hadn't seen before, or maybe had seen but didn't have words for. Like how Grammy's face would change when people weren't looking, how the sweetness would drop for just a second when she was annoyed. Like how Dad never actually made decisions about anything. He just did whatever Grammy said. Like how Grammy talked about Mom with this fake concern that didn't match the satisfied look in her eyes whenever Mom seemed to struggle. Ellie started testing small boundaries. "I want to call Mom," she said one evening. "It's not her phone call day," Diane responded. "We have a schedule." "I know, but I miss her." Diane's smile tightened. "You just saw her 2 days ago." "So, she's my mom. I should be able to call her whenever I want." "Don't be difficult, Alina." Ellie hated being called Alina. Only Grammy used her full name, and only when she was being chastised. "I'm not being difficult. I just want to talk to my mom." Ryan looked up from his laptop. "Listen to your grandmother." "Why do you always take her side?" Ellie snapped. Ryan looked startled. Ellie never talked back. "Excuse me." "You always take Grammy's side. Even when she's wrong. Even when it hurts me and Noah. You just do whatever she says." Diane stood up. "That's enough. Go to your room." "You're not my mom. You can't send me to my room." "Ryan, handle your daughter." But Ellie was already walking out. She went to the room she shared with Noah at Dad's house. Diane had insisted they share so she could turn the other bedroom into a craft room, and closed the door. She pulled out the phone that Grammy didn't know she had, a hand-me-down from a friend, and texted Mom. "I'm sorry." Lisa saw the text during her lunch break. Her hands shook as she typed back. "For what, sweetheart?" "For lying. Grammy made me say bad things about you. I didn't want to. I'm sorry." Lisa started crying in the middle of the grocery store. She screenshotted the text and sent it to Marcus. The forensic psychologist was a man named Dr. James Holloway. He'd been evaluating families for 23 years and had a reputation for cutting through bullshit. He interviewed everyone separately over the course of several weeks. Lisa went first. "Tell me about your relationship with your children," he said. Lisa took a breath and told him everything. The good, the bad, the normal chaos of raising 2 kids while working and managing a contentious divorce. She didn't hide her struggles or pretend to be perfect. "I yell sometimes when I'm overwhelmed," she admitted. "I've cried in front of them more than I probably should have. I'm doing my best, but I'm human and this is hard." Dr. Holloway made notes. "How would you describe Diane*'s involvement in your marriage and divorce?" Lisa chose her words carefully. She didn't want to sound bitter or vindictive, but she told the truth. "Diane never wanted me in the family. She undermined me as a parent, and now she's using the children as weapons to punish me for leaving her son." "That's a strong accusation." "I know, but it's true." She provided documentation. Marcus had helped her compile everything: the texts from Ellie, the notebook Diane had kept, which they'd obtained through discovery, the financial records showing Diane paying for Ryan**s attorney. Dr. Holloway**s expression didn't change, but he took extensive notes. Ryan's interview was uncomfortable. He clearly didn't want to be there. When asked about Diane's involvement, he was defensive. My mother helps with childcare. That's what grandmothers do. Has she influenced your custody decisions? She's given me advice, but I make my own choices. Who decided to file for primary custody? Ryan hesitated. My lawyer recommended it. Your lawyer that your mother hired and pays for. That doesn't matter. I'm the client. Dr. Holloway pulled out the discovery documents showing text messages between Diane and Patricia Helms. Messages where Diane instructed the lawyer on strategy. Messages where Diane told Ryan exactly what to say in court. These suggest a different story, Dr. Holloway said mildly. Ryan got defensive and shut down. The interview ended poorly. Diane's interview was the most revealing. She came in perfectly put together. Hair styled, makeup flawless, wearing the kind of outfit you wear when you want to look like a responsible, caring grandmother. I'm just trying to protect my grandchildren, she started. Dr. Holloway let her talk, and talk, and talk. People who are controlling can't help themselves. They have to justify, explain, make sure you understand why they're right and everyone else is wrong. Diane spent 90 minutes describing everything Lisa had done wrong as a mother. The list was extensive and detailed, too detailed. It was clear she'd been cataloging perceived failures for years. Did you instruct the children on what to say during their evaluations? Dr. Holloway asked directly. Diane's expression flickered just for a second. I would never do that. The children have reported feeling pressured to say negative things about their mother. Children can be confused during divorce. They don't always remember things correctly. What about the text messages between you and Ryan's attorney discussing how to prepare the children for court? Diane's composure cracked slightly. I don't recall those messages. Would you like me to show them to you? That's taken out of context. I was just making sure the children understood the process. The children report you told them their father would stop loving them if they didn't comply. That's absurd. I love my grandchildren. No one said you don't love them. The question is whether you've manipulated them to serve your own interests. Diane stood up. I don't have to sit here and be accused like this. I've done nothing wrong. But she'd done plenty wrong, and Dr. Holloway had documented all of it. The children's interviews were conducted last and with great care. Dr. Kim had already established trust with Ellie, so she was present. Ellie told Dr. Holloway everything. She was scared and her voice shook, but she told the truth. About Grammy's coaching, about the gifts tied to compliance, about feeling like she had to choose between her parents and being terrified of choosing wrong. What do you want? Dr. Holloway asked her at the end. I want to live with my mom, Ellie said, tears streaming down her face. I want to see my dad without Grammy being there all the time. I want to stop lying. I want everything to just be normal. Noah was harder to interview. He was only 8, and the questions were confusing to him. But when Dr. Holloway asked who he felt safest with, Noah didn't hesitate. My mom, because she doesn't make me say things that aren't true. Dr. Holloway's report was 53 pages long. Marcus called Lisa after receiving it. Sit down, he said. Lisa sat. Is it bad? It's bad for them. It's good for you. The report was scathing. Dr. Holloway documented a pattern of emotional manipulation, parental alienation, and coaching by Diane Giebler. He noted Ryan's failure to protect his children from this manipulation and his willingness to allow his mother to control the custody case. He wrote, the children exhibit signs of trauma not from maternal neglect or abuse, but from being forced to participate in an adult conflict they neither understand nor should have been exposed to. Mrs. Giebler has systematically undermined the children's relationship with their mother for personal reasons unrelated to the children's welfare. This behavior constitutes psychological abuse. He recommended immediate modification of custody. Lisa should regain primary custody. Ryan visitation should be supervised until he completed co-parenting counseling and demonstrated ability to set boundaries with his mother. Diane should have no unsupervised contact with the children. The court hearing was scheduled for 2 weeks later. Lisa barely slept the night before. She'd been through so many hearings at this point, each one chipping away at her hope. But Marcus seemed confident. "This is different," he told her. "We have documentation. We have expert testimony. We have the children's own words. Judge Torres takes parental alienation seriously." The courtroom was the same one where Lisa had lost temporary custody months earlier. Same wooden benches, same fluorescent lights, same terrible anxiety. Patricia Helms tried to discredit Dr. Holloway's report. She argued that Diane was simply being a devoted grandmother, that the children had been confused by too many interviews, that Lisa had manipulated the narrative. But Judge Torres cut her off. "Counselor, I've read Dr. Holloway's report. I've read the text messages. I've read the interview transcripts. Mrs. Giebler's behavior goes far beyond grandmotherly concern." He turned to Diane, who was sitting behind Ryan looking furious. "Mrs. Giebler, you are not a party to this case, but your actions have significantly impacted it. The evidence shows you have coached these children, manipulated your son, and used this custody battle to wage a personal vendetta against the children's mother. That behavior ends today." Diane opened her mouth to respond, but the judge raised his hand. "I don't want to hear it. Your actions have harmed these children, possibly irreparably. They will be in therapy for years because of what you've done." He looked at Ryan next. "Mr. Giebler, you are their father. It is your job to protect them, and you have failed spectacularly. You allowed your mother to weaponize your children. You participated in their coaching. You prioritized your mother's feelings over your children's well-being." Ryan looked at the floor. Judge Torres read his order. "Custody is modified. Ms. Carswell is granted primary physical and legal custody. Mr. Giebler will have supervised visitation every Saturday for 3 months while he attends mandatory co-parenting counseling and individual therapy. After successful completion, we will revisit unsupervised visitation." Lisa felt like she couldn't breathe. "Mrs. Diane Giebler is prohibited from any unsupervised contact with the minor children. Any violations will result in contempt charges and potential criminal penalties for custodial interference." Diane stood up. "You can't do this. Those are my grandchildren." "Mrs. Giebler, sit down or I will have you removed from this courtroom." "This is her fault," Diane pointed at Lisa. "She's poisoned everyone against our family, she." "Bailiff, please escort Mrs. Giebler out." Diane was still yelling as they led her from the courtroom. Ryan sat motionless, looking like he'd aged 10 years. Judge Torres looked at Lisa. His expression softened slightly. "Ms. Carswell, I apologize that it took this long for the truth to come out. The court system failed you and your children. I hope this order provides the foundation for healing." Lisa nodded, not trusting herself to speak. As they left the courtroom, Marcus squeezed her shoulder. "You did it. You actually did it." Lisa started crying, not sad tears this time. Relief, exhaustion, the overwhelming weight of it all finally lifting. Bringing the kids home was harder than Lisa expected. Ellie was relieved but also terrified. She'd spent months being torn between 2 narratives, 2 versions of reality, and she didn't quite trust that this was permanent. "What if the judge changes his mind?" she asked the first night. "He's not going to change his mind," Lisa said, stroking her hair. "You're home, you're safe, and nobody is going to make you lie anymore." "Is Grammy mad at me?" "Grammy is mad at a lot of people right now, but none of this is your fault, not one bit." Ellie cried herself to sleep that night, curled against Lisa like she used to do when she was small. Noah adjusted faster. He was younger and more resilient, but he had his own struggles. He'd wake up from nightmares about losing his mom. He'd panic if Lisa was even 10 minutes late picking him up from school. "I'm not going anywhere," Lisa would tell him over and over. "I promise I'm right here." Slowly, over weeks and then months, They started to heal. Lisa put both kids in therapy with Dr. Kim, who specialized in helping children recover from parental alienation. The sessions were hard. There was a lot of anger, a lot of confusion, a lot of guilt. Ellie especially struggled with feeling like she'd betrayed everyone. Her mom for lying, her dad and grandmother for telling the truth. "You didn't betray anyone," Dr. Kim told her. "You were put in an impossible situation by adults who should have protected you. You were trying to survive. That's not betrayal. That's bravery." Lisa had her own therapy to deal with the trauma of it all. The nights she couldn't sleep, replaying court hearings in her head. The hypervigilance about doing everything perfectly so no one could use it against her. The deep, deep anger at Diane and Ryan for what they'd put her children through. "It's okay to be angry," her therapist said. "You were abused too. You're allowed to feel that." Life slowly found a new rhythm. School mornings with Lisa making breakfast and packing lunches. Homework at the kitchen table. Movie nights on Fridays. Small, ordinary moments that had been stolen and were now reclaimed. Ryan's supervised visits were awkward and stilted. The kids loved him, but they didn't trust him anymore. They were polite and distant, like he was an acquaintance instead of their father. "Why didn't you stop her?" Ellie asked him during one visit. Ryan looked uncomfortable. "Stop who?" "Grammy. Why didn't you stop her from making us lie?" I thought she was helping." "She wasn't helping. She was hurting us, and you let her." Ryan didn't have an answer. Over time, he completed his counseling and started to see how badly he'd failed his children. His relationship with them improved slowly, but it would never be what it was. There was a distance now, a wariness. Diane never apologized. She couldn't be near the children, but she sent gifts, expensive toys and clothes that showed up on their doorstep without warning. Lisa donated most of them. Diane told anyone who would listen that Lisa had manipulated the courts and stolen her grandchildren. She played the victim right up until the end. But the kids saw through it now. They'd grown up fast, learned hard lessons about how adults could lie and manipulate and hurt people while claiming to love them. One evening, about a year after the custody order, Lisa found Ellie sitting on her bed looking at old family photos. "You okay?" Lisa asked. "I miss when things were normal," Ellie said. "Before the divorce, before everything got so messed up." Lisa sat next to her. "Me too, sometimes." "But you know what's weird? I don't actually miss it that much, because it wasn't really normal. Grammy was always mean to you, and Dad never stood up for you, and I just didn't see it because I was a kid." "You're still a kid." "You know what I mean. I look at these pictures now and I see different things." "Like what?" "Like how you're smiling but your eyes look sad, and how Grammy is always touching us like she owns us, and how Dad is kind of just there, not really part of things." Lisa didn't know what to say to that. "I'm glad we're here," Ellie continued. "With you, I'm glad the judge believed us. I was so scared he wouldn't." "Me too." "Mom." "Yeah. Thank you for not giving up on us. Even when Grammy made everything really hard and we said terrible things. Thank you for fighting." Lisa pulled her daughter close. "I will always fight for you. Always, no matter what." They sat together in the quiet, looking at old photos and remembering a past that had been more complicated than it seemed. Later that night, after both kids were asleep, Lisa sat on her porch with a cup of tea and thought about everything they'd been through. The divorce, the custody battle, the manipulation, the courts, the money she'd spent on lawyers, the nights she'd cried herself to sleep wondering if she'd ever get her children back. It had been brutal, devastating, the kind of experience that could have destroyed her. But it didn't. She'd survived. They'd all survived. And they were slowly putting together a life that was real and honest and theirs. Not perfect, but real. And that was enough. 3 years later, Lisa sat in a coffee shop with a friend who was going through a divorce. "I'm scared," her friend admitted. "His mother is already making comments about the kids, about me. I don't know what to do." Lisa thought about what she would have wanted someone to tell her 3 years ago. Document everything, she said. Keep records of every conversation, every text message, every weird comment. Don't give them ammunition, but don't try to be perfect either because they'll twist normal parenting into something sinister, no matter what you do. What if she turns the kids against me? Then you keep showing up. You keep being honest. You keep being the parent who doesn't make them choose. Kids can be manipulated, but they're not stupid. Eventually, they see the truth. Did your kids forgive you? Lisa smiled. There was nothing to forgive. They realized that pretty quickly once they were out of the situation. But yes, we're okay. Better than okay, actually. We're close in a way we couldn't have been before because now there are no secrets. No lies, just us. Her friend looked relieved. So there's hope. There's hope. It's going to be hard. The hardest thing you've ever done, but you can survive it. And your kids are stronger than you think. They talked for another hour, and Lisa shared everything she'd learned. The warning signs, the legal strategies, the emotional survival tactics. When they hugged goodbye, her friend said, "Thank you. I don't feel so alone now." Lisa drove home thinking about how far she'd come. The woman she'd been 3 years ago, terrified, desperate, barely holding on, felt like a different person. She pulled into her driveway and found Ellie and Noah doing homework at the kitchen table. Ellie was 15 now, tall and confident and fiercely protective of her brother. Noah was 11, still sweet but more cautious than he used to be. "How was your day?" Lisa asked. "Fine," Ellie said without looking up from her math homework. "Noah got in trouble for talking during science class." "I wasn't talking that much," Noah protested. Lisa smiled. Normal sibling bickering, normal teenage attitude, normal life. She'd fought for this normalcy. Paid for it with money she didn't have, and years of sleep she'd never get back and damage to her trust in systems she'd thought were designed to protect people. But she'd won. Not because the system worked, it almost hadn't. Not because justice prevailed, it almost didn't. But because she refused to stop fighting, and because her children were braver than anyone gave them credit for. That night at dinner, Noah asked randomly, "Do you ever talk to Grammy?" "No," Lisa said. "Why?" "Just wondering. She sent me a friend request on Instagram." "Did you accept it?" "No, I blocked her. Just thought you should know." Lisa felt a surge of pride. "Thank you for telling me. That was the right call." "I know," Noah said simply. "I'm not interested in being friends with someone who tried to take my mom away." Ellie reached over and ruffled his hair. "Look at you being all mature and stuff." "Shut up," Noah said, but he was smiling. Later, after the kids went to bed, Lisa sat on the porch again with her tea and thought about Diane Giebler. She wondered if Diane ever regretted it. If she ever looked back and realized she'd destroyed her relationship with her grandchildren because she couldn't let go of control. If she ever understood that love isn't about ownership. Probably not. People like Diane rarely have that kind of self-awareness. But it didn't matter anymore. Diane had lost. Not because the court said so, but because the children had grown up and chosen for themselves. And they'd chosen peace. They'd chosen honesty. They'd chosen the parent who never asked them to be soldiers in a war they didn't start. Lisa looked up at the stars and felt something she hadn't felt in years. Peace. The war was over. They'd survived, and they were going to be okay. People who manipulate children are very, very good at making everyone think you're the unstable one. They're good at playing the victim. They're good at looking concerned and responsible while they quietly dismantle your life. But children remember. They remember who showed up, who stayed honest, who never asked them to choose sides. They remember who protected their peace and who used their pain as a weapon. It might take time, it might take years, but they remember. And second, document everything. Keep records, screenshots, emails, journal entries with dates and times. When the custody evaluator asks for proof, you need to have it. Because he said, she said doesn't cut it when you're fighting someone with money and connections. Third, find your people. Lisa had Marcus, her lawyer who believed her. She had Dr. Kim, who saw through the lies. She had that one teacher who called even though she wasn't supposed to. You need people in your corner who see what's really happening. And finally, keep showing up. Keep being the parent who doesn't lie. Keep being the safe place, even when it's thankless, even when it feels hopeless, because that consistency is what saves your kids in the end. The system isn't perfect. It fails people every single day, but it can be beaten, not easily, not without scars, but it can be done. Lisa did it. Her kids are okay. They're healing. They're building lives that aren't weighed down by lies and manipulation. And if she can survive it, so can you. If this story resonated with you, if you've been through something similar or you're in the middle of it right now, I want you to know you're not alone. Drop a comment and tell me your story, or just say hi. Let's build a community of people who understand what it's like to fight for their children when everyone else thinks you're the problem. And if you know someone going through a custody battle, share this video with them. Sometimes just knowing someone else survived it is enough to keep going. Hit subscribe if you want more stories like this. Real stories about real people surviving impossible situations. Because that's what we do here at the Whispering Bee. We talk about the hard stuff, the messy stuff, the stuff nobody wants to admit happens. You are allowed to heal. You are allowed to win.